Gilg Jew, Gilg J as Gilg Nerach.
She Claare na Gael and Claare Shaw, Smiliam Shuish Haltacher. My name is Robert Cutting Carswell, Robert a Carslach.
Have I heard tell of old Bobby Bob?
And it's my pleasure to present this programme, Claare na Gael, in the English language as Sahilg, and in the Manx Gaelic, Chinyan Amera, the mother tongue of Ellerslie Vannin, the Isle of Man. As Bannacht and Juries, well, we've been introduced to a Scotsman, Anthony Dunlop, and he was a leading agriculturist here in the island at Ellerslie and Marown. Scottish poet Robert Burns had told Anthony Dunlop's mother, when Anthony was only 16, that, despite Anthony's qualities, he would be, well, too sensitive a soul to make his way in the world. An chiad dunne de cho yeri refusa de Lucy Westenra an la yindasach shen as 3 yeri an refusa curritji, she'n fairly John Seward as ta tai benrich phone stewrega. Ta surrensach sa tai benrich de she Renfield an enemega. As we've heard in Gullers Gagan, and Chruinnaght starts tomorrow, Monday the 25th of July. You can check out the website at chruinnaght.com or Celtic Gathering. You can look at Facebook and Twitter for details. There'll be Yn Chruinnaght lunchtime sessions at 1 o'clock in the Nor Bakehouse in Douglas from Monday the 25th of July through to Friday the 29th. And at the Centenary Centre in Peel on Monday evening, tomorrow evening the 25th, MEC LIR will be playing. Tashu eeastagh rish Radio Vannin, Stasiwn an Asiwn, Visgul Sgeliena, o Stulish, Allen Vannin. MEC LIR, and an augmented version of the Manx dance tune Gemma's Nancy. Robert Burns's impression of Anthony Dunlop is recorded in an article by John Simpson, apparently first published in the Glasgow Herald and reprinted in the Peel City Guardian in 1899 for its Manx interest. John Simpson writes of Anthony Dunlop, "The youngest son of a large family, with a good education, a well-balanced mind, gentle disposition, high spirit, and strong sense of honour, he was yet unfitted to face the rough work and endure the hard knocks of the world. And, as is very often the case with those of like sensitive and impressionable natures, he receives more than his fair share of the same rough work and hard knocks. Anthony was sent from home in his 13th year to make a career for himself in the Royal Navy. He saw a good deal of service, chiefly in the East Indies, but promotion came more slowly then than in the succeeding years of Nelson's wars, and he retired before he attained to the command of a ship of his own. Jeeaghyn and fairly Seward, and QUAYLE main Sauri. Smoose in moil to stayed Renfield chit the vey, na smoo tammy chit the hickle and dunya. To shartans the chroan egge, ernen mischicha fi boer. Sondage, kilchinus, as kereel aignia. Salium de vodum tickle dain and fair sherry shen. Te gin, de vel shelly egge heen, te sightjer. A crave shen gesemmes force. And tro hawelach egge, shen kin been. Ach, de jaru te been en quech egge benten de vel mi shielden na keerden, na vel each jowl a skin carginus. Ten a biggin en egge je sorchen quech. Kaartnish te kiauach rei, ons tarten karchwulligen. Huist egge tre ton, de rauwe orms al toene. Stan weinig dou wei, gedenk jouwles de wei maar van mi jurkelrish, ach, rennie saich jane goes les fastage njouw gramp. Smunier is shalid, as eish doortje, wil kid dou few 3 lion, nim glenamachad. Our Cornish singers BRYHER'S boys will be taking part in a singing session in Peel Masonic on Tuesday evening, and they'll be at the Nor lunchtime session on Wednesday and in a concert at the Centenary Centre in Peel on Thursday evening. Now here they sing what's become a great Cornish favourite, Little Lize.
The other night I had a dream, the sweetest dream of all. I dreamt that I was kissing you behind the garden wall, and she said, little Lize, I love you, little Lize, I love you, I love you in the springtime and the fall. Little Lize, I love you, little Lize, I love you, I love you best of all. Now tell me, honey, now tell me, do, who is your turtle love? Oh, tell me, honey, tell me, do, who is the one you love? And she said, little Lize, I love you, little Lize, I love you, I love you in the springtime and the fall. Little Lize, I love you, little Lize, I love you, I love you best of all. I took my baby home last night beneath the spreading vine and put my arms around her waist and pressed her lips to mine, and she said, little Lize, I love you, little Lize, I love you, I love you in the springtime and the fall. Little Lize, I love you, little Lize, I love you, I love you best of all.
And that's BRYHER'S boys who sing shanties, glees, contemporary Cornish songs by the like of Harry Safari Glasson, and they're singing about Little Lize. Son sigaris doet me de berg shen mij de loer. Sein thou frail arair. An hart o le jeg mein sauri. Te chinde nagneg ishkus du wolian, as de ferne refi voerja ons kistje. Te frail rish cor berge dou lesh na kar chwulligenegge, as de niru jena first jerry shen, jit marvis ragen, de vene slew. Gael de valley an yno image lear na vieg ons kleine tulju kar chwulligen vain chow mui gus a chemer. An chidle Jerasauri. Tan a duolian egge nish chit de vei na vore chwisjes na kar chwulligen egge, as Jew dinch me de valley ersen gedden reiru. Vei jeeaghyn fi trimshach mych yon shaw, ma so doet me rish de valley ersen glenamach pert jou eggen goed slew. Renne saige jay shaw de ginnel, as hook me de en trech hedden as rai sontanige. Hug a grain orm de moor, house for me marish. Now we continue with John Simpson's article about Anthony Dunlop. In 1808 he married Anne Cunningham, daughter of the Collector of Customs at the port of Irvine. For some years he and his wife resided in Cumberland, but the restlessness, born of a life spent at sea, drove him to the Isle of Man, where he dreamed of making a fortune at last as a tenant farmer. The place he chose for this operation doesn't appear a very likely one to a competent judge today. It was the farm of Banks Howe, on the bare upland lying between Kirkonkin and the sea, where the Howe Strait golf links now are. Breezy and bracing, it's an ideal spot for a holiday, but the soil is poor and thin, and capable of raising only the lightest crops. Perhaps its proximity to Douglas captured his fancy. Perhaps admiring the beauty of hill and glen and sea-worn cliff, he made, like Burns at Ellisland, a poet's, not a farmer's choice. Perhaps, after all, it was the low rent that was his attraction. And that's Elizabeth Davidson-BLYTHE on fiddle and Daniel QUAYLE accompanying her there, and they'll also be playing in that concert at the Centenary Centre tomorrow evening, Monday the 25th of July.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
Stasiwn yn asiwn dy radio fannin as yn sio tasiw eeastagh rys Claare na Gael. Mish Robert gyda'n garswell, Robert y Carslach.
Have you heard tell of old Bobby Bob?
One would think it might be possible to live, even today, and the today of John Simpson's article was 1899, one would think it might be possible to live, even today, on a farm of 517 acres, within easy reach of markets, for which the owner required only £300 a year. But long before the 15 years of lease, of which Mr. Dunlop entered in 1808, had expired, he was anxious to be rid of Banks Howe. During the latter years of his residence there, that was after the peace of 1815, the price of farm produce fell to an alarming extent, and the dispute with his landlord in regard to deteriorations, like Burns' difference with John Morin of Laggan when he left Ellerslie for Dumfries, only made matters worse. In 1822 he gave up Banks Howe and tried another venture. The estate of Ballakillia in the parish of Marown was for sale. It consisted of nearly 500 acres with another 100 acres of mountain land, and £8,000 was the price. Son tre hen cachwylio gorm grena, volgit les beacon vart, cronen stiach sa chamber, rene de tartan, chumme les vogasil rishalid na ghe, eder a vers an ordegege. As rosh mar au fisse mer na ver chi jinu, hug e stiachi sa vielege as die. Hug be och Sunday a hon, ach renne argena de fech, de ne fi vai as fi fallen vei, de ne be von, be ledger, as de dugge be desen. Hug sjo aidau, nan bunje ai. Sein dau freilare nacht de gedden reir is na duoljenegge. Slure de vel dolje douwen zijn eidnjegge, son taljor skriwi weggegge ongi te de kinjach skriw schiest ridderach. De sledden duljegen gi lient lesh immer die irwen, de kajin irwen single, curriture gelia ons lochten. As esch na summen curriture gelia ons lochten rish. Maar de berge jeeaghyn kunte senjach, Martin a scruteder and grey. Now, Wednesday evening's concert at the Centenary Centre in Peel brings the premiere of a new presentation by ISLA CALLISTER. It's called Criach, featuring music and illustrations which have been inspired by women who've shaped the history of the Isle of Man from the late 1800s to the present day. And the illustrations are by Joe Davis, and you can see they'll be presented as part of the programme of the show, and there'll also be an exhibition of some of those illustrations as well in the Athol room of the Centenary Centre. Well, here's Isla, and she's playing a couple of traditional tunes on fiddle. She's joined by Becky Hurst on concertina and by Alistair Paul on guitar. ISLA CALLISTER with BECKY HURST and ALASDAIR PAUL on that recording. On Wednesday she'll be joined for Chruinnaght by a Scottish friend Anna Garvin and by Katie Lawrence, Mira Royal, Kirsty Lawrence and Ruth Keggin, with spoken word by Annie Kissack. An háchtú le Jeara Saori. Tá ó drélas a charna sega, as tá bun jén aishen ons mention, bishacha. Be na cledden I de leer, as show smunion gin be ort co red de vres sledden Hang me soul vai me chara rislein the ginnens for the gold taste je Claare be von. Ta ridden tanachtan morvad ach de vel liga lesh pert in a big in an egger as de fair no egger. Teer jit lesh gedden sparrow, as teer winige hanna ons pert. Njau chrampten ses egger de winige, son hanna tan a slew do olien on. Ach, udsen ta forse marn, tad beet de mai, no de valley force cor les stjacht na kar chulligen, joris mjolige lesje wee. A naioleg Jeara Saori. Tashin gol I. Ta sledden coloin de sperry eg me charanish, as te na do olien as na kar chulligen egge, bunus skridich mach. Well, as we've heard, £8,000 was the price of Ballakillia in Marown. John Simpson continues. This didn't seem too high, for the property was declared to be tithe-free. And there's a note here that Ballakillia is part of the bishop's barony, which may have explained this confusion. Well, I'm afraid it doesn't actually clear the confusion for me. That the tithes of other properties had been made over to the Lord of Man by this time, and after the Act of Settlement in 1704, those tithes had doubled that were payable to the Lord. Tithes on the bishop's barony, though, remained payable to the church, and apparently these hadn't been altered after the Act of Succession, so perhaps they seemed, 100 years on from there, to be a minimal annual charge. No charge at all, virtually, tithe-free, according to John Simpson. Now, whether that's the explanation or not, I'm not sure. But anyway, it's quite obvious the article is making play of the fact that £8,000 for the property didn't seem too high when there wasn't the annual extra burden of a large tithe to be paid. And, as John Simpson goes on, the taxes weren't heavy. Now, the Tuesday evening singing session at Peel Masonic that I mentioned earlier also includes the Manx Gaelic community choir Yn Chruinnaght. And here they sing a set of words collected by Sophia Morrison, one of the women to be featured in ISLA CALLISTER's Chruinnaght, in fact. And the words are set to music and arranged by Helen Clegg. Hooin jeeaastagh Yuan.
Hooin jeeaastagh Yuan, shame or a brat on Yuan. Curly at a Berlin, master and black. Hooin jeeaastagh Yuan. Hooin jeeaastagh Yuan, shame or a brat on Yuan. Curly at a Berlin, master and black. Hooin jeeaastagh Yuan. Hooin jeeaastagh Yuan, shame or a brat on Yuan. Shame or a brat on Yuan. Curly at a Berlin, master and black. Hooin jeeaastagh Yuan. Jew it at a ball and Jew it at a ball and white as an head, white as an head. Be the Eastern, be the Eastern. Jew it at a ball and Jew it at a ball and Jew it at a troggle, Jew it at a troggle. Rush like a skirmish, rush like a skirmish. You and listen, probing, cast a troggle, you and
Yn Chruinnaght and Hooin eeastagh Yuan, let's go to the fishing. Mr. Dunlop calculated that he ought to clear £1,000 a year from it, and in this expectation he concluded the purchase of the estate. Rejoicing in its beautiful situation, though all unaware of the mineral wealth concealed beneath the surface, he prepared to make it a pleasant home for his old age. First of all, he altered its uncouth native name. Of course, this is Ballakillia, the farm of the church. He altered its uncouth native name to Ellerslie, in remembrance of the place where his great ancestor, Sir William Wallace, was born. By this name it's still known, and Ballakillia is forgotten except by a very few aged people who learned it from their elders long ago. The next step was the erection of a noble mansion, with the necessary farm buildings close at hand. The square of offices was much more commodious than is usually found on an estate of the size, being over 60 yards across, and the mansion too was large in proportion to the property. The works were, of course, very costly, but unlimited credit was at the disposal of the owner of Ellerslie. Trehek misteach on, renne raidau, as doortje drawe giri shira for orm. For 4 year woer. As gouds ve lord renne brinnerach orm grish mother. Vrij mi jane of e giri, as doortje lesh source de djaunes gerei as an immer gege, Pishin jes beg rauwer, de vodem kleilesh, as insige as cor bergedei, as bergedei. Gerau mi njau earlich son een jiri show. Son van mi ngol taaste je nachrin de biggin en egge, frailrish bishige se woods se vriok. A gerau mi kunt de monne de berge lucht tael en egge de sperriu, na strai nach hednes van a charchwilligen as na duolien. Maar so doort mi de jinnen smunjenair, as vrij mi nach berlesh ket na pishin. Ren en jine egge de vra gouds dan sure, o berliam, bewailiam ket. Ren mi ach shirre oors on pishin, al de jinne hu gobbeldau ket. A medley of Welsh tunes there played for dancing, and joining Yn Chruinnaght this year will be Welsh dance group Dawnswyr Pen y Bai. And of course, with them, we'll be hearing plenty of Welsh dance music as they perform in various exhibitions of Welsh dancing for us. Siodiw stasiwn yr asiwn radio fanning. Sé Claare na Gael tar a Clash and Cartnish, Mer and Peen, Robert Gtyn Carswell, Robert a Carslach.
Did the other hear tell of old Bobby Bob?
A jinnach pecher be gobbled out pishin jinnach. Chremi me chion, as durt me de bochrailiam meg a trei ton, nach bech possible. Ach, de jinnen smunionair. Henk come gramach an edinegge. A stod me fagen rauw de vagerton. Son Vasilje bew fergach liadach de varu. She fair benrich dunverach njau je aviven dun je shaw. Nim prowle lesje wie egge tre ton as fedden ma BRYHER'S jay. Esh be fis smoo emer. Jai PM. Tamie chorshilje rish. As hwrmie na hai ons corneel as smunien de grauw. Tre henk mis jaag on, chauw a hien a gair glioen rom, as renne gwiarm, de liege ket we egge. De rauwen saueltes egge kroche Ach voor mis shadowach, as dinch me de na wottig ver we egge, as a sen, haie gin vogel, as haie schies, kaiden jere weer, so corneel on hwrmie. Jem korshilje de morgen savora. For a time, says John Simpson, fortune seemed to shower favours on him with a liberal hand. He was elected, that's to say he was one of the two names proposed by the Keys to the Lord of Man, he was elected Member of the House of Keys for the parish of Marown, an office he held for 5 years. And he was particularly happy in his family life. His 4 sons all gave promise of being successful men. The eldest, William Wallace Dunlop, received his commission as ensign in the 50th Regiment and went out to India. The second son, Alexander, entered the house of John Anderson and Company in Glasgow, and afterwards went to Buenos Aires to conduct a branch business for that firm. Charles, the third son, also went into business under Alston, Freeling and Company, merchants in Liverpool. The youngest son, Franklin, was entered at Woolwich Academy to prepare, like his eldest brother, for the army. 3 daughters remained to brighten the social life of the home at Ellerslie. But clouds began in time to darken Mr. Dunlop's happiness. Well, here now is an Irish traditional music icon, Frankie Gavin, and he's playing flute, and he's accompanied by Catherine McHugh on piano. And Frankie and Catherine will be performing at the Centenary Centre in Peel this coming Thursday evening, the 28th of July, for Yn Chruinnaght. That's Eddie Maloney's reel, played by legendary Irish musician Frankie Gavin on the flute, but renowned as well for his fiddle playing. He was accompanied there by Catherine McHugh on the piano, and in fact Frankie Gavin is originally from Corrandulla in County Galway, and Catherine McHugh is from Annadown. It's one of these places, fall over twice and you've moved from Annadown to Corrandulla. They're very close to each other. They'll be playing at the Centenary Centre, as I say, this Thursday evening, the 28th of July. First of all came a lawsuit at the instance of Mr. Banks, the landlord of the bare, rocky farm he'd left, who demanded payment of £4,000 for deterioration suffered by his property. The claim was unjust and exorbitant, being founded chiefly on the loss of some untenanted cottages, the ruins of which Mr. Dunlop had cleared off the ground. Nevertheless, there was the trouble of resisting it, and the worry and anxiety attendant in making good his position before the courts. Then Bishop Murray commenced an action for the recovery of tithes, said to be in arrears for 15 years, although Mr. Dunlop had been assured that Banks Howe was in reality tithe-free. I think he means here Ellerslie was tithe-free, and subject only to a modified payment of 30 shillings per annum. Last of all, there was the enormous expense of the new buildings. He didn't find himself so ready as he anticipated to meet the tradesmen's accounts, and he was compelled to borrow twice over £6,000. Yes, I take that back. It must have been Banks Howe, because obviously he was there from 1808, and the bishop was now suing him for the tithes that hadn't been paid. Yn Chruinnaght Jerusalem. Hug mi silia Renfield 5 oge, roos me jeeaghyn 10 jeeaghyn me giet. Hwr me chosh, as cronain car. Vi skeelje maag sugar egge, ren is bereil synunieg, as gronel vei der rau I Gael toiacht tarten carcholigen rish, as Gael toiacht de ginnel as les aigne mai. Ich mi me geert on de ushigen egge. As traine wak me had, vrij mi jay, kreed wat. Der eggerei ginchen de me giet, der rau adulju en netlach vai. Va fedjag na ge me giet de chamber, as a chlusjag egge, va bain falle. Ge doet mi weg. A chai mi as dinch mi den 10 jeeaghyn, de CHORAA morm, me varid en acht nieuw gajen, benten de, faien lei. Nenjag AM. Tan 10 jeeaghyn kaart jitdau, de inchdau de ren Renfield vei fi ching, as de ren tilge soes mo ren de fejigen. Tammy Creel baintje as eschen, de velle nie no shugenegge, as na renne ach goilad as iad au. Whilst there's the Mega Manx Ceilidh taking place in the Villa Marina on Friday evening, that's the 29th of July, if you're still in Peel, you can go along to the Royal, and there you'll find Claare playing. Now, as we've just found a drop of blood on the pillow of Mr. Renfield here, this is Claare playing Liege de Folle.
Liege
Clash Fua with Liga the Faller, Bloodletter. Nanjeg PM. Hug me opieg ledger de Renfield. Taus de lure de chor eer ersen kadle. As gauw meer soel a ljor skriwi de yinori. Sledden nish tenai terwe etlach me giet me inchen gerrig. As de prowlers gin shieldness. When the crisis was approaching, he told part of his troubles in confidence to James Grierson, a Dumfriesshire gentleman who had some business with the island and was a frequent visitor at Ellerslie. Arrangements were made for meeting the impending crash, and the compatriots agreed to stand by one another. And we'll come to the denouement of this next time. As a sentashen erbut jit bonuscus Jeran Claare a cheer shaw. Stand by for 2 hours of the best chill-out music with Chris Pearson from 7 to 9, and then at 9 Judith Lay will be here with Sundown to ease us into Monday morning. We finish with music by wonderful Scottish band Deaf Shepherd, who will be in concert at the Centenary Centre in Peel this coming Saturday, the 30th of July. Don't forget to check out all the concerts, workshops, talks, many other events which make up Yn Chruinnaght from tomorrow, Monday the 25th of July, until a week today, Sunday the 31st of July. Look for ynchruniacht.com or celticgathering.im. A cartnish, Shene bush Claare Gael, and so until the next time then, this is Robert Cutting Carswell, Robert a Carslach.
Oh, Bobby Bob.
Wishing you a very good night. Eve I'm a creeriu, as ortselier, as my yeary and shed you will you.